Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar, which is on managing SQL Server in Azure. We have Gary Hunter, the Business Development Manager at Bytes, here discussing the Bytes and Bytes relationship. He'll then pass you over to Martinez, which is the Senior Cloud Solutions Architect at Bytes, and he'll be running through the duration of the webinar. Just before we start, I'm just going to quickly run through some housekeeping. So during the webinar you will be muted, but you can submit questions at any time throughout the webinar via the questions box on the right hand side of your screen. We'll then turn to a Q&A at the very end of the webinar to answer any questions that you've submitted. The webinar will be recorded and made available to you after the webinar. And there will also be a critique form that will pop up at the end, and it will literally take 30 seconds just to fill out. So if you do have some short time just to fill this in, we'll be very appreciative. I'm just going to hand you over to Gary Hunter, who will kick off the next section of the webinar.
Thanks very much, Cassie, and good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to introduce Elastacloud to you. So Elastacloud is a joint venture company between Elastacloud and Bytes Software Services. So Elastacloud brings together two of the largest Microsoft Premier partners in the UK, and really with the technical competency of the Elastacloud aspect of the business, we really bring to the fore the technical competence, delivering or giving the ability to our customers for Azure migrations. So we created a company called Elastacloud, and as you can see, our strapline is managing cloud infrastructure, okay, for the robust IT that everybody needs. So really our core strengths and competencies are migrating both applications and data to Azure, and setting up infrastructure within Azure, and then managing your investment within Microsoft Azure. And my colleague Martinez is going to talk around different areas that we do, really focus on SQL and our SQL Care offering within Azure. But we have we work with many companies, many organizations in all different walks of life, going right from setting up their initial infrastructure within Azure to migrating over to, applications to a PaaS model, and then moving into also data analytics. And Elastacloud as a business, which is one part of the partnership that makes up Elastacloud, is really a data analytics business. So Elastacloud is, say, data analytics and business intelligence platform specialists. So what makes us different? Well, really, we have three Microsoft MVPs, which is Microsoft Most Valued Professionals in the business, and Martinez is one of those. He is an Azure MVP, and also two regional directors. Now, this is the most senior accreditation that you can get from Microsoft. It's not that they are Microsoft employees, but the regional directors are a body that makes up a consultancy group, an advisory board to Microsoft. And there are only 150 regional directors globally. There are 5 in the UK, and we have 2 of those as being the directors of the Elastacloud business. So the areas that Elastacloud focus on is, of course, Azure architecture, but the key outcome is business intelligence and data analytics. So therefore, the areas of expertise for us are areas like Power BI, SQL, which you will hear about shortly, Internet of Things, and delivering predictive analytics with the Azure Cortana suite, including things like Azure Machine Learning and R, and then Apache Spark and Apache Spark Machine Learning. So we're major contributors to custom Power BI visuals, which are hosted in Microsoft, the Microsoft Gallery, and we're also the only external partner to be working with Microsoft to develop their data science program. Okay, so As I mentioned earlier, we've worked across all different vertical markets, from the public sector through to financial sector. Clearbank is a big new bank that is coming to the market very soon. Martinez has been closely involved in that, in building out their IT infrastructure, which is in fact a hybrid structure between Azure and on-premise to ensure they're compliant with FCA regulations. We work with people like the West Midlands Ambulance Service, the Royal Free Hospital. ASOS is a major customer of us, where we've handled migrations over to Azure and then built machine learning recommenders for their website. IoT projects, Quintus Energy is a customer of ours, where they're an energy company and they run wind farms and solar farms, and we have IoT sensors on all of the wind turbines, and we manage all that data for them in the cloud. Okay, so I hope that gives you a flavour of Elastacloud and Bytes and Elastabytes the business. Now, many of you will have started your journey to Azure, to the cloud, and some of you maybe are a long way down the path, and some of you are really just thinking about it. But really, this slide is just to really emphasize the key benefits of the cloud, and many of you will know this. So what we know now is that 90% of all businesses in the UK is actually using cloud computing, typically through the implementation of Office 365 and SharePoint. So many of you will have already gone down that path. But obviously, and as Martinez will cover as we go on, the flexibility and scale of Azure is really what it's all about, the ability to scale up and down as you need. And that really delivers operational agility and reduces the cost of having heavy infrastructure within your own environment. And of course, from an employee perspective and from workforce, you can work anywhere with multiple devices, getting access to the internet. You can use all the applications that you need. Martinez is going to touch on disaster recovery. It's one of the major applications for cloud technology, and you're going to hear about how Azure really helps that and offers that as part of a package. And of course, from an IT perspective, there's no hardware to manage, automatic software, and no hardware obsolescence costs. And of course, one of the biggest benefits for most organizations is the move away from capital expenditure through to an operational expenditure, and really being able to pay as you use compute. So the summary, the benefits of the cloud is the scalability and the agility it can give you without the capital expenditure. Okay, so with no further ado, I will pass over to Martinez.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Martinez Volkunas. Now we'll be with you for the next half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm going to talk about managing SQL Server in Azure, and just to be everyone on the same page, when I mention Azure SQL Server or Azure SQL databases, I'm going to talk about the PaaS offering of a cloud model that we are going to mainly speak about today. It's not about VM or infrastructure as a service, but everything about the platform as a service offering. So I'm working as a senior cloud solutions architect at Elastabytes, and let me introduce myself. So I'm an Azure MVP and Microsoft certified solution expert. And I'm the owner of a UK Cloud Infrastructure User Group, as well as I'm a blogger and a conference speaker. So today's agenda that we are going to talk about where is Azure and why management matters, why you need to do some one way or another management. We are going to look at what you need to manage and how you're going to manage workloads. And at the very end, I want to touch about the service that we have delivered within the Elastacloud with the team about SQL Care, which is essentially a database administration of a service. And this is what we sell very successfully to help companies to manage SQL servers and workloads in Azure. So probably this is the reason why that you already invested or you already planning for investment in Azure, in Microsoft Cloud platform. And this is a hyperscale infrastructure that is being enabled at this point of time. So basically, there are many data centers around the globe. In a green label, there are data centers that has been announced to be coming online pretty soon. And as United Kingdom regions opened not so long time ago, and this is a big, massive win for our clients. We can see more and more inquiries about going to Azure because Microsoft will guarantee that data is going to reside in United Kingdom with two UK data centers. And this is another one that was missing, France data center, to expand the Middle Europe and West Europe workloads for the Microsoft Cloud. So let's have a look why you have to manage Azure SQL workloads. And we have got a lot of questions about that one. People are asking lots of time, why do we need to manage Azure resources? Because we do have an impression that Microsoft is going to do it for them. And actually Microsoft enables you to do that, especially if you migrate to a software as a service or platform as a service offering, but not everything. You still have to plan, you still have to think about how you're going to move forward, and still have to do some homework from your end. So coming back to the topic that we are going to cover, Azure SQL servers, you have to know what the DTUs are. And the DTU stands for Database Transaction Units. And if you go to provision your Azure SQL Server and databases, it talks all about DTUs, not the CPUs, not the memory assigned, not the input-output per second operations, but all about the DTUs. And here's the brief explanation what the DTU is. And basically DTU is a blended measurement of a CPU, memory, data, and transactional input and output. So it is most useful for understanding the relative amount of resources between Azure SQL databases at the different performance levels and service tiers. And let's take an example that if you have something of the DTU of 1, and if you take something, for example, DTU of 2, then it will be twice as powerful as DTU of 1. To get better understanding of those database transaction units for your workloads on premises, there is a good web calculator that I'm going to speak a little bit later, how you can transform the on-premises workloads and to understand better what it translates of a DTUs in Azure Cloud. So let's start with a very basic coverage and Microsoft offering on a different SKUs of Azure SQL Server. As you can see, you can start very little small. So basically, you can go with a basic SKU, which gives you up to 5 DTUs, and it will the monthly cost will be around £3 per month. If you want to go for the extremes, there is a premium SKU, P15, which you can achieve 4,000 DTUs, and it costs a little bit less than £10,000 per month. It can be under some regions that you won't be able to provision to the highest ones of the P15 premiums, But this is because data centers has been built on a different hardware, on a different timeline, and not every data center is providing exact same services, and especially based on SKUs. If you check the smallest on the premium plan, you get point-in-time restore, and Microsoft, it means that Microsoft is going to take the backups for you. What I relate to is that it doesn't matter basically with which SKU are you starting with. Basically, you get exactly the same functionality, exactly the same features. Just the retention periods or point-in-time restore is slightly differences, but basically you get exactly the same features. So what do I have, and what options I have if I want to start hosting my SQL workloads on Azure Cloud? Underneath the database tier, we have Elastacloud tier, which I'm going to cover in a second. But again, we have a basic and standard and premium tiers with different DTU limits. As in basic goes under the limit is 5 DTUs. Standard has a range from 10 to 100 DTUs, and premium has an option to go from 125 to 4,000 DTUs. Elastacloud tier is exactly the same from basic, standard, premium with different DTU range. So what is Elastacloud tiers? The databases in Elastacloud are on a single Azure SQL database server and share the set of a number of resources at a set of price. In other words, saying initially it is the way you to save money. So for example, if you look in a left diagram, I have one database that uses DTU resources in Azure, and database is not using much of the resources based on a DTU utilization. As we add more and more databases which have different profiles, different utilization, we can use it as a benefit to maximize of the usage of a service what you have initially paid for. And this is what relates to the second graph in the middle for databases. As you can see, on a same service plan, Elastic database pool has ability to store more databases, and basically you're still not covering everything. If you go to the heavy load on right hand side on the diagram, we'll see that there are 20 databases running on Elastic database pool, and the black line indicates the average of the DTU usage. And this is basically what you want to achieve, and this is what you want to have on your Elastic database pool. Basically, you want to provision the resources for the entire pool and basically use all or most of the resources that you are paying for. If you go to the Azure SQL Server instance on Azure portal, and this is the little purple icon which indicates and gives you the Microsoft recommendation of a user of your Azure SQL PaaS offering. And basically what it does, it says it does some investigation in the background, and it says, you know what, you are almost running to the limits, and maybe you need to provision and to go for the higher tier of Elastic database pool. Or if you have lots of extra space, so it will recommend you to scale down and to go with a little SKU of a database tier. And basically it helps you to utilize the resources and pay for the resources what you're actually using. In other words, saying it helps business to save money. So Elastic what? You can see Elastic database pool, and you have a number of databases, and you see that those 5 databases in a screenshot utilizing around 60% of the usage. So you have less and less overhead, and this is exactly where you want to be. We don't want to pay for business, don't want to pay for the stuff that we are actually not using. And from this graph, as you can see, the average of a DTU usage is around 60%. So it means that you can still add some databases to the Elastic database pool. Monitoring Elastic pools, and the way how you can do it, you can do it directly from the portal, and this is a great thing. For example, as you can see in this graph, that average utilization is almost 56%, and which is totally not bad compared with the DTU usage that we have seen earlier with one database in a pool. So to use Elastic database pools, you pull all your databases that you think that need to go together to the Elastic pool, and it will become the single billable unit. And this is why it is interesting to look at the databases and the DTUs to put together it in Elastic service tier, and potentially save you potentially could save you lots of money. So hitting the limits. So let's say that you have provisioned Azure SQL Service Plan with a tier of 150 DTUs, and you start hitting the limit. What will happen? What performance you're going to face? First of all, server will start giving you the latency. And the results that you initially triggered to get back from a SQL server will increase the latency times. And this is not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario that can happen, that you can start getting a timeout. And this is definitely what you don't want to get. You also might get queues, which means that multiple requests stack up behind each other. And each database in Azure SQL database has a certain number of concurrent requests. Let's talk about the monitoring. And so in a portal, you see earlier with the usage, you can have a built-in functionality of a basic monitoring. And on top of that, you have alerts. And it can be extremely useful for you as a DBA that you're doing monitoring on a regular basis or on an ad hoc basis. And maybe you don't have a DBA, or maybe, for example, you don't have automated monitoring in place, or maybe the portal is just the right way how you interact with your SQL database performance, and it's totally fine. And you can set up alerts based on a usage, based on a DT utilization, and so on. It might be the way that you like keep going with such type of monitoring. We also have DMDs inside the SQL Server. We have sys resource stats, and that will be in a masters. And we have DMDB resource stats in user database. And if you like to do something in more automatic way, PowerShell is the right way to do it. We have customers that run automatic PowerShell scripts, collect the metadata, output to another SQL database, and we will put Power BI on top of it to make customers have rich reports. We can also tell trends and patterns of the usage of a database of a SQL infrastructure in Azure. And this PowerShell can log and react to situations that are happening within our customer databases. And to be honest, some of our customers have 200, 300, 500 databases, and PowerShell, it makes so much easier life for the monitoring. And of course, there are third-party tools and suppliers like Redget, IDEA, Sentry, and all of them provide excellent tooling over the top of Azure SQL DB, SQL Data Warehouse, that can be very handy for you. So this is a SQL database screenshot, and this is under basic service plan tier. It has only 5 DTUs and assigned to it as in a basic plan. And you see the averages of CPU usage and DTU usage falls under 5% of total usage. And this is a very classic database to put under Elastic database pools. And you can add and remove custom metrics directly from Azure portal, and it is a very easy and quick way to overview your database Elastic pools. So write down this portal, because this is a portal provided by the Microsoft, which helps you to understand and evaluate your on-premises workloads. So basically what it does, it has a list of things to do, and then you'll submit the workload and answer some questions and go through some prerequisite checks. Microsoft will recommend you under which size or under which data tier you have to provision your Azure resources. And this is the portal, dqcalculator.azurewebsites.net. And now it became it's extremely easy way of doing it. And then you have the recommendations. You can go with any SKU you like. If it is test purposes, you can go with the smallest SKU, any service plan, and you'll have the ability to assign a bigger or lower service plan in a future for your databases. I'm going to check about the downtime, the minimum downtime later on. But there is a small downtime, but just like a matter of seconds, while you're scaling up or scaling down between different tiers. So scaling, there are two ways of scaling in Azure. So now, for example, you know that you need to grow, and the question is, how do you do it in Azure? How do you scale your resources? You going big, or are you going wide? So as we take a look again in this slide, with the lowest possible basic SKU and premium SKU, you can scale up pretty easy. If you scale up within the same tier, basic, standard, or premium plan, it will take seconds. The average downtime is less than 4 seconds between scaling up within the tiers. If you go to scale up between different tiers and plans, then it's going to take a little longer, because in the background, Azure Resources is assigning more resources for the databases and moving to another racks and so on and so forth. The problem with this method is what happens if 4,000 DTUs is not big enough for you. What happens if you hit P15 Premium with 4,000 DTUs and there is nowhere else to go? And I've seen lots of customers using lift and shift way to migrate on-premises workloads to the cloud, provisioning high-performance VMs with lots of CPU, lots of RAM memories. But basically, they are not really thinking how the cloud model works and how to do things in a best practice. And they are not using best practices and not having the best recommendations and best usage of a cloud. Basically, what you want to achieve the usage of a cloud model, have that most of the benefits of a cloud. So you have a bunch of services on premises. You want to migrate one of the services or a few of the services, and you have to find out what the cloud is offering for you. So initially, you want to go to the software as a service offering and try to migrate the services based on a SaaS model. If it is not possible to do that, then you take the next step and you try to migrate to the PaaS offering, platform as a service. And if there are some particular reasons why you can't do that, then you'll have to go infrastructure as a service, provision the VMs, and basically have the same infrastructure as back on premise data center. But as I said, I really want to address this one. There must be a really good reason why you're not migrating to the PaaS if there is an option to do so. So if you get to the top, there's nowhere else to go. So this is why we have to go wide instead of up. And this is a go wide idea. It has the idea of horizontal scaling. So the principle is that you provision an Azure SQL databases, which don't have to be big. It can be any type of a size and tier. And all of them will have the same schema. But you share the data horizontally across those individual databases. Then using the programmatic approach, you will use the Elastic database query and you will query the database. Basically, you'll see just one database, which is head of a databases, and you run your T-SQL as normally, as you would normally run on your SQL Management Studio. For example, select something from a table and add a conditional clause. Then what will happen is that SQL Server starts the Elastic database query and then go to the right database server and service your request. If you get more data, you spread across more and more nodes and add more nodes and more nodes, and you can add nodes as many as you like. And this is where Elastic database pools might prove to be valuable as well. You can add more nodes with more databases. So potentially you can have hundreds of smaller SQL Server databases, and you just keep adding and adding and adding and adding. In this approach, scaling out, there is no upper limit. And as you saw earlier with P15 example, scaling up is the limit that you can hit quite easily. Of course, it depends what SQL workloads you do have. And by sharding and spreading the databases to the different databases is very similar approach as with a data warehouse, where you have a compute layer on top and all the nodes and the databases data underneath, serving that data up to the compute nodes. Query store. So if you never use or heard of a query store, this is possible one of the unseen gems inside your SQL DB that can be very, very useful for you. So you're also inside the box, the Azure SQL Servers as a box product. You get this service. So basically, what you have to do, you have to turn it on, and it starts collecting data. You turn it on in a query store, wait an hour or two, and it will start collecting data, and you will be able to start pinpoint all the problem areas within your SQL Server queries. It is really, really valuable, and it gives you the great insights into how SQL Server is managing your queries. So this is the screenshot of a query store, and you can do it the same with a T-SQL. You can do it the same with a PowerShell. But if you are like in a portal, it will ask you just to click the button, and the query store will be enabled. So in SQL, after you enable it, in SQL Management Studio, when you connect to the instance with a public endpoint, you'll see the SQL Server DB. You will see the new folder for query store, and this is the place where you need to investigate and to get the reports and get the results of a query store. And this is where you potentially going to get or go. This is the how it's going to look like. And for example, the example I did, you can see that I'm having I'm looking in the queries, so that the top 25 resource consumers during the last five minutes, and I got the plan there. I can check how long it's taken an average of a period of time, and I can see whether the performance is going backwards and not forwards. And you get a very good idea exactly what's happening with your queries inside your SQL DB. And basically, this is just built-in tool. You don't need to install anything. Helping hand. So you also get from Azure SQL Server service the ability for SQL to create the indexes for you. And it can be very useful. And for example, if you don't have in-house experience of creating indexes, so SQL can do it for you. So instead of not using any indexes at all, you might say, okay, SQL, go ahead, check what I'm doing, check how the data is performing, and apply indexes for me. And this is where Microsoft is giving the ability for you to do lots of monitoring and tuning straight out of a box. So you can look inside the portal and get the whole functionality. And you know what? Some of you might think that it's better to do it by yourself, or some of you might say, okay, I don't have those skills, I don't have that confidence, and maybe that's something I can implement just using built-in functionality. On top of that, you're getting recommendations based on assessments that Azure is doing in the background, and you can follow up on those recommendations later on. Query performance insights. So once again, this is the menu from the Azure portal that you get query performance insights options, and it will show you different queries on your SQL Server. So this is one of showing you top five queries of CPU consumption, and then you got down left hand side the query ID, which is 122 in a yellow background, and you can drill into each one of those queries. And for example, from the graph, you see that query 122 consume the CPU of 47% of the whole instance, and has been executed 6,409 times. So based on the graph, I can be looking and go into the query and try to tune it or try to optimize it, because it is the biggest hitter. And it might be possible that I won't be able to do anything about it because it's just operating in the best performance way. But this is the good starting point to look what is happening within your SQL and investigate the top queries first. So this is another one that we have drilled down, and you can see the query that has been actually executed. And you get the overview over the period of time. And like I have mentioned earlier, there are tools that do this one as well. But if you are in a portal and you don't want to pay for an extra tool, so this is the right way to attack it, and you can have a proper view just from a portal. All right, so let's cover a little bit the things that we didn't look at it, because it is different sessions, different webinars. So operations management suite and monitoring the log analytics. So as you might know, that operations management suite offers very rich capability of monitoring on a hybrid environment. So on premises, on a cloud, not only Azure Cloud, it can be Amazon. It can be Rackspace, it can be OpenStack. On top of that, OMS is capable of monitoring not Windows machines, but Linux machines as well. So this is what covers all the infrastructure as a service. But what about the platform as a service? As you don't have interaction with the virtual machine as itself, OMS can do that one as well. And OMS is capable of monitoring Azure SQL PaaS offering. So on top of that, you get the plug into the Power BI to have rich reports. You can get the alerts and notifications, solutions path. You can initiate by the alerts and notifications, webhooks and runbooks. For example, that you can trigger the automation that can run on Azure or on premises. This is very powerful tool, and Microsoft in the last year in investing lots of money into its functionality and capabilities. So I strongly suggest looking at it, that you would have understanding, especially when you're starting the journey to the cloud. Extended events, you can capture the information and then decide what you would like to do with it. DMVs, this is what we have mentioned briefly, but haven't looked at it. And third party. So there are a number of third party options that can take away a lot of pain for you. Most of them has very good navigation around the insights. And if you are familiar with one tool or another, so this is definitely a way to do that. All right, so let's talk about the dark moments and disaster recovery. So this is it is all right to monitor all your SQL farm and to understand what's happening, but you are not able to get much information when SQL instance or databases are down. So basically we work on the premises, and sometimes it will happen that databases will fail, services will fail, network will fail. And we always work with the idea that it's nice to have everything online and operational under 100%. But next time you log in, you don't know if it can be any downtime of your SQL instances. So business continuity and disaster recovery tier model. As you can see from the different tiers, it has exactly the same features, just slightly different server-based parameters, what I have mentioned in the very beginning. For example, basic tier has the restore pointed in time restore 7 days, and standard and premium tiers has 35 days. This is the list of ways you can protect your Azure SQL database instance against going down and staying down. Microsoft backup your databases by default. So basically, you don't have to do anything. You don't need to switch it on or switch it off. As long as you provision the Azure SQL service instance, the backups are being made automatically for you. You don't have to worry about it. Microsoft will worry about it. So SQL database automatically performs a combination of the full database backups on a weekly basis, differential database backups on an hourly basis, and transaction log backups every 5 minutes to protect your business from the data loss. For example, if you look on a very bottom, active Geo-Replication, this is the availability group in Azure. This allows you to have multiple read-only replicas distributed around the world up to 4 instances. And if your primary instance fails, you can fail to the replica and your business will be up and running again. And it is very important to mention that all the features you get regardless of the SKU you use. Point-in-time restore. So this is what I have just mentioned. Automatic backups happening on a scheduled basis. You don't have an option to interact with backups. You don't have an option to switch it off or change the different policies. Self-service restore, and what's important to mention, that it's not about the backups, it's about the restore, the capability to restore data and to make sure that after restoration it is working and fully functioning. And with a self-service restore, you can restore a database to a new space in the same logical unit. And of course you can automate it with a REST API and PowerShell. And when you lose your database, you can restore to another database. Geo Restore. This is where you can restore your database to another server whenever the need is. So you can go from the US East into US West. For example, if US East fails, you restore it to US West. And as you can see, there is no extra cost, no capacity, and database URL will change after the restore. Active Geo-Replication. So we have a primary, and for example, we lose it, and now the secondary becomes the primary one. And this is where all your database writes and reads are going to happen, and it's still replicating to another databases. And if, once again, if current primary fails, it will fail over to another secondary instance. Currently, the failover mechanism is something that you have to do it manually. There is no automated failover, but at this point of time, there is a private preview that is being in place for testing purposes, and it should become very, very soon that you won't have to interact manually after the primary instance will fail. And this is a very valuable feature for people who want to have highly available redundant SQL scenario in Azure. So this is it. I have finished the introduction of Azure SQL Server and databases. Now I want to give a quick intro about the SQL Care and the package and the service that we have created within our team. And basically, Elastacloud is offering you a DBA as a service and the ability to have a DBA resource if you don't have any, or if you need just for an ad hoc basis. It can be, this could be, for example, that you need an infrastructure DBA or architect for a SQL Server, or it can be somebody who knows how the applications interact with the databases. We have resources, we have knowledge, we have experience, and we can provide and share those resources for you, with you. Monitoring. We have monitoring software with the rules that we can apply SQL Server rules and apply on a SQL Server databases. And it alerts us, it alerts our engineers what's happening with the databases. Currently, we are monitoring hundreds and hundreds of customer databases. And they plug into our rule engine, and then our engineers are able to monitor those and react to them, see the patterns and trends, and have a full insights of a SQL. So, for example, we can see that in an automated way that DTU usage is gradually increasing over time, and we can work either with a customer to increase the size of a SKU or tell them about that it needs to be increased by them. To go even more advanced way, we can automate it, and basically on a workloads we can scale up or scale out based on a schedule basis, based on performance, based on a usage as well. It is a monthly subscription model, and based on how many databases you have and what services you need. So basically the obvious the price will differ what you're looking for and what kind of type of work it needs to be done to manage your SQL. Complementary, we are not looking necessarily to replace your DBAs if you already have ones, but maybe we can offer you working together on a project level basis. You might need somebody else to complement your in-house knowledge, or maybe your DBAs don't have enough experience for managing SQL Server in Azure, or maybe you have got a project that you need more resources, so we can complement it. So basically we can be DBA resource, but we can also be a complementary to your already existing DBA resource. And this is pretty much everything what I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for listening. If you do have any questions technical questions, this is the email that you can address for. I'm pretty sure that this presentation will be shared later on. And yeah, so if you have a few minutes for the questions and answer, we can go for it. If not, use the email and we'll start from there.